Blessed love and peace. This is recitation of Tobadiko Kadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Diganakaya, Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, Tao Te Ching. And this is portion numero 24, Vayikra, which includes from Torah, Vayikra, which is Vayikra 1:1 a 5:26. From the Chandogya Upanishad, it is Kanda 3, numero 17. From the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Atma Samyama, numero 6. From the Tao Te Ching, it is chapter 24. From the Menke, it is chapter 5 of 28. And from the Digha Nikaya, it is the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, numero 16, chapter 3. From the Dhammapada, it is the Bhikshu Vaga, numero 25. From the Gospels, it is from the Digha Nikaya, from the Dhammapada, it is the Tanya Vaga 24. And from the Gospels, it is Luke chapters 3 y 4. From the Quran, it is Surah Ashuara. And from the Kitab Yaqdas, it is verse 58 a 76. Bismillah ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Dao ka dao, fe chong dao, ming ka ming, fe chong ming, ja Rastafari. Deus nos te quies in cele sanctificator nomen tuum, Vayikra Sanam. Baruch ata Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher katzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'nasuk b'devai Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivomastu save jegatahe, save sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabiyam. Aquaba upendo na amani. V'kyrie nesanami. Chingdadam peremen, lebov mem, umejikam. Ubuntu Shabbat Fakithka. Shishem Kamasunida Domo Arigato. Pelamayelo Wakan Tokum. Tok or Dokashin good. Government of God. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata Jam Yat Yata Afranami. Mado Aho Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Torah, Vayikra. And Elohim called to Moshe, and Elohim spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, when a man from amongst you brings an offering to Elohim from animals, from cattle, or from the flock, you shall bring your offering. His offering, if his offering is a burnt offering from cattle, an unblemished male, he shall bring it. He shall bring it willingly to the entrance of the tent of meeting before Elohim. And he shall lean his hand forcefully upon the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted for him to atone for him. And he shall slaughter the young bull before Elohim. And Aaron's descendants, the Kohanim, shall bring the blood and dash the blood upon the altar, around the altar which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And he shall skin the burnt offering and cut it into its prescribed sections. And the descendants of Aaron the Kohen shall place fire on the altar and arrange wood on the fire. And Aaron's descendants the Kohanim shall then arrange the portions, the head and the fat, on top of the wood which is on the fire that is on the altar. And its innards and its legs he shall wash with water. Then the Kohen shall cause to go up in smoke all of the animal on the altar, as a burnt offering, a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And if his offering is brought from the flock, from sheep, or from goats, as a burnt offering, he shall offer it an unblemished male. and he shall slaughter it on the northern side of the altar before Elohim. And Aaron's descendants, the Kohanim, shall dash its blood upon the altar around. And he shall cut it into its prescribed sections with its head and its fat, and the Kohen shall arrange them on top of the wood which is on the fire that is on the altar. And the innards and the legs he shall wash with water. Then the Kohen shall offer up all of the animal and cause it to go up in smoke on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And if his offering to Elohim is a burnt offering from birds, he shall bring it from turtle doves or from young doves. And the Kohen shall bring it near to the altar and nip off its head and cause it to go up in smoke on the altar, and the bird's blood shall be pressed out upon the wall of the altar. And he shall remove its crop along with its entrails and cast it next to the altar on the east side to the place of the ashes. And he shall split it open with its wing feathers intact, but he shall not tear it completely apart. The Kohen shall then cause it to go up in smoke upon the altar, on top of the wood which is on the fire. It is a burnt offering, a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And if a person brings a meal offering to Elohim, his offering shall be of fine flour. He shall pour oil over it and place frankincense upon it, and he shall bring it to Aaron's descendants, the Kohanim, and from there he, the Kohen, shall scoop out his fistful of its fine flour and its oil, in addition to all its frankincense. Then the Kohen shall cause its reminder to go up in smoke on the altar. It is a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And what remains of the meal offering shall belong to Aaron and to his descendants. It is holy of holies from the fire offerings of Elohim. And if one brings a meal offering baked in an oven, it shall consist of either unleavened loaves made of fine flour mixed with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. And if a meal offering of a pan is your offering, it shall be made of fine flour mixed with oil. It shall be unleavened. Break it into portions, and you shall then pour oil over it. It is a meal offering. And if your offering is a meal offering made in a deep pot, it shall be made with a fine flour with oil. Thus you shall bring the meal offering which shall be made from these types to Elohim. And he shall bring it to the Kohen, and he shall bring it close to the altar. And the Kohen shall lift out from the meal offering its reminder, and cause it to go up in smoke on the altar. It is a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And what remains of the meal offering shall belong to Aaron and his descendants. It is holy of holies from the fire offerings of Elohim. No meal offering that you offer to Elohim shall be made out of anything leavened. For you shall not cause to go up in smoke any leavening or any honey as a fire offering to Elohim. However, you shall bring them as a first fruit offering to Elohim. Nevertheless, they shall not go up on the altar as a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And you shall salt every one of your meal offerings with salt, and you shall not omit the salt of your God's covenant from being placed upon your meal offerings. You shall offer salt on all your offerings. When you bring a meal offering of the first grains to Elohim, you shall bring your first grain meal offering from barley. As soon as it ripens, parched over the fire, kernels full in their husks, ground into coarse meal. And you shall put oil on it, and place frankincense upon it. It is a meal offering. Then the Kohen shall cause its reminder to go up in smoke, taken from its coarse meal and from its oil, with all its frankincense. It is a fire offering to Elohim. If his offering is a peace offering, if he brings it from cattle, whether male or female, unblemished, he shall bring it before Elohim. And he shall lean his hand forcefully upon the head of his offering and slaughter it at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron's descendants, the Kohanim, shall dash the blood upon the altar around. And from the peace offering he shall bring a fire offering to Elohim, comprised of the fat covering the innards, and all the fat that is on the innards, and the 2 kidneys along with the fat that is upon them, which is over the flanks. And he shall remove the diaphragm with the liver along with the kidneys. And Aaron's descendants shall cause it to go up in smoke on the altar, apart from the burnt offering which is on top of the wood that is on the fire. It is a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And if his offering for a peace offering to Elohim is from the flock, whether male or female, unblemished, he shall bring it. If he brings a sheep as his offering, then he shall bring it before Elohim. And he shall lean his hand forcefully upon the head of his offering, and slaughter it before the tent of meeting. And Aaron's descendants shall dash its blood upon the altar around. And from the peace offering he shall bring a fire offering to Elohim, comprised of its choicest part of the complete tail, which he shall remove opposite the kidneys, and the fat covering the innards, and all the fat which is on the innards. and the 2 kidneys along with the fat that is upon them, which is over the flanks, and he shall remove the diaphragm with the liver along with the kidneys. And the Kohen shall cause it to go up in smoke on the altar as food for the fire to Elohim. And if his offering is a goat, he shall bring it before Elohim, and he shall lean his hand forcefully upon its head, and slaughter it before the tent of meeting, and Aaron's descendants shall dash its blood upon the altar around. And from it he shall bring his offering, a fire offering to Elohim, comprised of the fat covering the innards, and all the fat which is on the innards, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is upon them, which is over the flanks. And he shall remove the diaphragm with the liver, along with the kidneys he shall remove it. And the Kohen shall cause it to go up in smoke on the altar, consumed as a fire offering with a pleasing fragrance. All offerings, offertory fat belongs to Elohim. This is an eternal statute for all your generations and all your dwelling places. You shall not eat any fat or any blood. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, If a person sins unintentionally by committing one of all the commandments of the Elohim, which may not be committed, and he commits part or of one of them, if the anointed Kohen sins, bringing guilt to the people, then he shall bring for his sin which he has committed an unblemished young bull as a sin offering to Elohim. And he shall bring the bull to the entrance of the tent of meeting before Elohim, and he shall lean his hand forcefully upon the bull's head, and slaughter the bull before Elohim. And the anointed Kohen shall take from the bull's blood, and bring it into the tent of meeting. And the Kohen shall dip his finger into the blood, and sprinkle some of the blood 7 times before Elohim, before the dividing curtain of the sanctuary. And the Kohen shall place some of the blood on the horns of the incense altar which is in the tent of meeting before Elohim, and he shall pour all the blood of the bull onto the base of the altar, utilized for burnt offerings, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And all the fat of the sin offering bull he shall separate from it, the fat covering the innards, and all the fat that is on the innards, and the 2 kidneys along with the fat that is on them, which is on the flanks, and the diaphragm with the liver along with the kidneys he shall remove it. Just as was separated from the bull sacrificed as a peace offering, the Kohen shall cause them to go up in smoke on the altar utilized for burnt offerings. He shall then take the bull's skin and all of its flesh, along with its head and along with its legs, its innards, and its waste matter. He shall take out the entire bull to a clean place outside the camp, namely to the ash depository, and he shall burn it in fire on wood. Thus it shall be burnt in the ash depository. And if the entire community of Israel errs because a matter was hidden from the eyes of the congregation, and they commit one of all the commandments of Elohim, which may not be committed, incurring guilt, when the sin which they have committed becomes known, the congregation shall bring a young bull as a sin offering. They shall bring it before the tent of meeting. The elders of the community shall lean their hands forcefully upon the bull's head before Elohim, and one shall slaughter the bull before Elohim. The anointed Kohen shall bring some of the bull's blood into the tent of meeting, and the Kohen shall dip his finger from the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before Elohim, before the dividing curtain. And he shall then place some of the blood on the horns of the altar that is before Elohim in the tent of meeting, and then he shall pour all the blood onto the base of the altar utilized for burnt offerings, which is at the entrance to the tent of meeting. And he shall separate all its fat from it, and cause it to go up in smoke on the altar. And he shall do to the bull just as he did to the bull of the sin offering, thus he shall do to it. Thus the Kohen shall make atonement for them, the community, and they will be forgiven. And he shall take the bull outside the camp and burn it, just as he burned the first bull. It is a sin offering for the congregation. If a leader of Israel sins and unintentionally commits one of all the commandments of Elohim, which may not be committed, incurring guilt, if his sin that he has committed is made known to him, then he shall bring his offering an unblemished male goat. And he shall lean his hand forcefully upon the goat's head, and slaughter it in the place where he slaughters burnt offerings before Elohim. It is a sin offering. And the Kohen shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, and place it on the horns of the altar utilized for burnt offerings. And he then shall pour its blood onto the base of the altar utilized for burnt offerings. And he shall cause all its fat to go up in smoke on the altar, just like the fat of the peace offering. Thus the Kohen shall make atonement for his sin, and he will be forgiven. If one person of the people of the land commits a sin unintentionally by his committing one of the commandments of Elohim, which may not be committed, incurring guilt, if a sin that he committed is made known to him, he shall bring his offering an unblemished female goat for his sin that he committed. And he shall lean his hand forcefully on the head of the sin offering, and he shall slaughter the sin offering in the place of the burnt offering. And the Kohen shall take some of its blood with his finger, and place it on the horns of the altar utilized for burnt offerings, and then he shall pour all of its remaining blood at the base of the altar, and he shall remove all of its fat, just as the fat was removed from the peace offering. The Kohen shall then cause it to go up in smoke on the altar as a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. Thus the Kohen shall make atonement for him, and he will be forgiven. If he brings a sheep for his sin offering, he shall bring an unblemished female. He shall lean his hand forcefully upon the head of the sin offering and slaughter it as a sin offering in the place where he slaughters the burnt offering. And the Kohen shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and place it on the horns of the altar utilized for burnt offerings, and then he shall pour all of its blood onto the base of the altar. And he shall remove all its fat, just as the sheep's fat is removed from the peace offering. The Kohen shall then cause them to go up in smoke on the altar upon the fires for Elohim. Thus the Kohen shall make atonement for him for his sin which he committed, and he will be forgiven. If a person sins whereby he accepts an oath, and he is a witness to some matter by seeing or knowing it, yet he does not testify, he shall bear his transgression. Or if a person touches anything unclean, whether it is the carcass of an unclean wild animal, or the carcass of an unclean domestic animal, or the carcass of an unclean creeping animal, and it was hidden from him, he incurs guilt. Or if he touches the uncleanness of a human with any uncleanness through which he may become defiled, and it is hidden from him, and later he knows, he has incurred guilt. Or if a person swears, expressing with his lips to do harm or to do benevolence, whatever a man may express in an oath, and it is hidden from him, and later he knows, he is guilty in any one of these cases. And it shall be, when someone incurs guilt on any one of these cases, that he shall confess the sin which he had committed, and he shall bring his guilt offering to Elohim for his sin which he had committed, a female animal from the flock, either a sheep or a goat, for a sin offering, and the Kohen shall make atonement from his sin. But if he cannot afford a sheep, he shall bring as his guilt offering for that sin that he had committed 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves before Elohim, one for a sin offering and one for a burnt offering. He shall bring them to the Kohen, who shall first offer up that bird which is designated for the sin offering. He shall cut its head by piercing with his nail opposite the back of its head. He shall not separate it. He shall sprinkle from the blood of the sin offering on the wall of the altar, and the remainder of the blood shall be pressed out onto the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. And he shall offer up the second one as a burnt offering according to the law. Thus the Kohen shall make atonement for him from his sin which he had committed, and he shall be forgiven. But if he cannot afford 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves, then he shall bring as his offering for his sin 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour for a sin offering. He shall not put oil over it, nor shall he place frankincense upon it, for it is a sin offering. He shall bring it to the Kohen, and the Kohen shall scoop out a fistful as a reminder, and cause it to go up in smoke on the altar upon the fires of Elohim. It is a sin offering. Thus the Kohen shall make atonement for his sin that he committed in any one of these cases, and he shall be forgiven, and it shall belong to the Kohen like the meal offering. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, if a person commits a betrayal and trespasses unintentionally against one of the things sacred to Elohim, he shall bring as his guilt offering to Elohim an unblemished ram from the flock with a value of silver shekels, in accordance with the shekel of the sanctuary for a guilt offering. And what he has trespassed against the holy thing he shall pay, and he shall add 1/5 of its value to it, and he shall give it to the Kohen. The Kohen shall then make atonement for him through the ram of the guilt offering, and he shall be forgiven. If a person sins and commits one of the commandments of Elohim which may not be committed, but he does not know, he is guilty, and he shall bear his transgression. He shall bring an unblemished ram from the flock with the value for a guilt offering to the Kohen. The Kohen shall then make atonement for his unintentional sin which he committed and did not know, and he shall be forgiven. It is a guilt offering. He has incurred guilt before Elohim. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, if a person sins betraying Elohim by falsely denying to his fellow concerning a deposit or money given in hand, or an object taken by robbery, or he withheld funds from his fellow, or he found a lost article and he denied it and swore falsely regarding any one of these cases whereby a man may sin, and it shall be, when he has sinned and is guilty, that he shall return the article which he had robbed, or the funds which he had withheld, or the item which he had deposited with him, or the article which he had found, or anything regarding which he had sworn falsely. He shall pay it with its principal, adding its fifths to it. He shall give it to its rightful owner on the day he repents for his guilt. He shall then bring his guilt offering to Elohim, an unblemished ram from the flock with the same value for a guilt offering to the Kohen. And the Kohen shall make atonement for him before Elohim, and he shall be forgiven for any one of the cases whereby one may commit a sin, incurring guilt through it. Chandogya Upanishads, Kanda 3, numero 17. When a man hungers, thirsts, and abstains from pleasures, these are his initiatory rites. When he eats, drinks, and enjoys pleasures, he then participates in the upasadas. When a man laughs, eats, and enjoys sexual intercourse, these are the stuta and sastra. As austerity, almsgiving, uprightness, nonviolence, and truthfulness, these are the gifts dakshina for the priests. Because the life of a man is an offering, therefore they say that his more will give birth soshiyati to him, or his more has given birth asoshta to him. The same words are utilized in the soma offering and mean he will pour out the soma juice, and he has poured out the soma juice. This is his birth. His death is the avabrita. Gora of the line of Angirasa communicated this teaching to Krishna, the son of Devaki, and it quenched Krishna's thirst for any other knowledge, and said, when a man approaches death, he should take refuge in these three thoughts: thou art indestructible, akshata; thou art unchanging, aprachita; and thou art the subtle prana. And thou art the subtle prana. On this subject there are 2 Rik verses. They, the knowers of Brahman, see everywhere the supreme light which shines in Brahman, which is all-pervading like the light of day, and which belongs to the primeval seed. Perceiving the higher light in the soleil, which is above the darkness of ignorance, as the higher light in the heart, perceiving the supreme light which is higher than all lights, we have reached the highest light, the soleil, the most luminous amongst the celestials. Yea, we have reached the highest light, the soleil, the most luminous amongst the celestials. The Bhagavad Gita, Atma Samyama Yogahe, numero 6. Sri Krishna says, he who does the work he ought to do and does not seek its fruit, he is a sannyasi and he is a yogi, not he who does no work and maintains no sacred fire. Know that what they call renunciation is the same as yoga, O Pandava, for one who has not renounced his desire can ever become a yogi. For a sage who wants to attain yoga, action is said to be the means, but when he has attained yoga, serenity is said to be the means. When a man has no attachment to the objects of the senses or to works, and when he has wholly renounced his will, he is said to have attained yoga. Let a man be lifted up by his own self, let him not lower himself, for he himself is his friend, and he himself is his enemy. To him who has conquered himself by himself, his own self is a friend, but to him who has not conquered himself, his own self is hostile like an external enemy. He who has conquered himself and is serene in mind is constantly absorbed in the Supreme Self, alike in heat and cold, pleasure and pain, and honor and dishonor. He is said to be a steadfast yogi whose heart through knowledge and realization is filled with satisfaction, who having conquered his senses never vacillates, and to whom a clod, a stone, and gold are the same. He who has equal regard for well-wishers, friends and foes, for those who are related or indifferent to him, for the impartial and the malicious, and even for the righteous and the sinful, he stands supreme. A yogi should always try to concentrate his mind, retiring into solitude and living alone, having subdued his mind and body, and got rid of his desires and possessions. In a clean spot, having fixed his seat, a firm seat, neither too high nor too low, and having spread over it kusha grass, and then a deerskin, and then a cloth, And sitting there, he should practice yoga for the purification of the self, restraining the activities of his mind and senses and bringing his thoughts to a point. He should sit firm, holding his body, neck, and head erect and still, and gaze steadily at the tip of his nose without looking around. Completely serene and fearless, steadfast in the vow of brahmachari, disciplined in mind and ever thinking of me, he should sit in yoga regarding me as his supreme goal. Keeping himself ever steadfast in this manner, the yogi of subdued mind attains the peace abiding in me, the peace that culminates in nirvana. Yoga is not for him who eats too much, nor for him who eats too little. It is not for him, O Arjuna, who sleeps too much, nor for him who sleeps too little. For him who is temperate in his food and recreation, temperate in his exertion at work, temperate in sleep and waking, yoga puts an end to all sorrows. When the well-controlled mind rests in the self alone, free from longing for objects, then is one said to have attained yoga. As a lamp in a witness place does not flicker, that is the figure utilized for the disciplined mind of a yogi practicing concentration on the self. That in which the mind, restrained by the practice of concentration, rests quiescent, that in which, seeing the self through the self, one rejoices in one's own self, that in which one knows the boundless joy beyond the reach of the senses and grasps only by the understanding, that in which, being established, one never departs from reality, that on gaining which one thinks there is no greater gain, and wherein established one is not moved even by the heaviest of sorrows, let that be known as yoga, which is severance from the contact of pain. It is to be practiced with perseverance and with an undaunted mind. Renouncing entirely all the desires born of the will, drawing back the senses from every direction by strength of mind, let a man little by little attain tranquility with the help of the buddhi, armed with fortitude. Once the mind is established in the self, he should think of nothing else. Let him withdraw the fickle and unquiet mind from whatever causes it to wander away, and restore it to the control of the self alone. Supreme bliss comes to the yogi whose mind is completely tranquil, and whose passions are quieted, who is free from stain, and who has become one with Brahman, thus making his self ever steadfast. The yogi, freed from sins, easily enjoys the touch of Brahman, which is exceeding bliss. With a heart concentrated by yoga, viewing all things with equal regard, he beholds himself in all beings, and all beings in himself. He who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, to him I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. He who, having been established in oneness, worships me, dwelling in all beings, that yogi, in whatever way he leads his life, lives in me. Him I hold to be the supreme yogi, or Arjuna, who looks on the pleasure and pain of all beings as he looks on them in himself. Arjuna says, this yoga which you, O Madhusudana, have declared to be characterized by evenness, I do not see how it can long endure, because of the restlessness of the mind. For the mind of Krishna is restless, turbulent, powerful, and obstinate. To control it is as hard, it seems to me, as to control the wind. Sri Krishna says, doubtless, O mighty Arjuna, the mind is restless and hard to control, but by practice and by detachment, O son of Kunti, it can be restrained. Yoga is hard to attain, I think, by a man who cannot control himself, but it can be attained by him who has controlled himself and who strives by right means. Arjuna says, a man who is endowed with faith, but not with steadfastness, and whose mind has wandered away from yoga, what end does he gain, O Krishna, having failed to obtain perfection in yoga? Fallen from both, unsupported and bewildered in the way leading to Brahma, does he not, O mighty Krishna, perish like a riven cloud? You should completely dispel, O Krishna, this doubt of mine, for no one but you can destroy such a doubt. Sri Krishna says, O Partha, there is no destruction for him either in this world or the next. No evil, my son, befalls a man who does benevolence. The man who has fallen away from yoga goes to the worlds of the righteous. Having lived there for unnumbered years, he is reborn in the home of the pure and the prosperous. Or he is born in a family of yogis rich in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is hard to gain in this world. There he comes in touch with the knowledge that acquired in his former body, O son of the Kurus, and strives still further for perfection. By that form of practice alone, he is led on in spite of himself. Even he who merely wishes to know of yoga rises superior to the performer of Vedic rites. A yogi striving diligently is purified of all sins, and becoming perfect through many births, reaches the supreme goal. The yogi is greater than men of austerity, is greater than men of knowledge, greater than men of action. Therefore be a yogi, O Arjuna, and of all yogis, the one who worships me with faith, his inmost self abiding in me, him do I hold to be most closely united with me in yoga. Dao Te Ching 24. Those who are on tiptoes cannot stand. Those who straddle cannot walk. Those who flaunt themselves are not clear. Those who presume Those who presume themselves are not distinguished. Those who honor themselves have no merit. Those who boast about themselves have no last. Those who boast about themselves do not last. Those with the Tao call such things leftover food or tumors. They despise them. Thus, those who possess the Tao do not engage in them. Vayikra, chapter 4 of 28. Vayikra, having an interview with the king Tuan of Qi, says to him, "When men speak of an ancient kingdom, it is not meant thereby that it has lofty trees in it, but that it has ministers sprung from families which have been noted in it for generations. Your Majesty has no intimate ministers even. Those whom you advanced yesterday are gone today, and you do not know it." The king says, "How shall I know that they have not ability, and so avoid employing them all?" The reply was, "The ruler of a state advances to office men of talents and virtue only as a matter of necessity, since he will thereby cause the lower to overstep the honorable, and distant to overstep his near relatives. Ought he to do so, but with caution? When all of those about you say this is a man of talents and worth, you may not therefore believe it. When your great officers all say this is a man of talents and virtue, neither may you for that believe it. When all the people say this is a man of talents and virtue, then examine into the case, and when you find that the man is such, employ him. When all those about you say this man won't do, don't listen to them. When all your great officers say that this man won't do, don't listen to them. When the people say this man won't do, then examine into the case, and when you find that the man won't do, send him away. When all those about you say this man deserves death, don't listen to them. When all your great officers say this man deserves death, don't listen to them. When the people all say this man deserves death, then inquire into the case, and when you see that the man deserves death, put him to death. In accordance with this, we have the saying, the people killed him. You must act in this way in order to be the parent of the people." The king Tuan of Qi asks, saying, "Was it so that Tong banished Ji, and that King Wu smote Zhao?" The king says, Vayikra replies, "It is so in the records." The king says, "May a minister then put his sovereign to death?" Vayikra says, "He who outrages the benevolence proper to his nature is called a robber. He who outrages righteousness is called a ruffian. The robber and ruffian we call a mere fellow. I have heard of the cutting off of the fellow Zhao, but I have not heard of the putting a sovereign to death in his case." Vayikra, having an interview with the king Tuan of Qi, says to him, "If you are going to build a large mansion, you will surely cause the master of the workmen to look out for large trees, and when he has found such large trees, you will be glad, thinking that they will answer for the intended project. So should the workmen hew them so as to make them too small, then your Majesty will be angry, thinking that they will not answer for the purpose. Now a man spends his youth in learning the principles of right government, and being grown up to vigor, he wishes to put them into practice. If your Majesty says to him, 'For the present, put aside what you have learned and follow me,' what shall we say? Here now you have a gem unwrought in the stone. Although it may be worth 240,000 taels, you will surely employ a lapidary to cut and polish it. But when you come to the government of the state, then you say, 'For the present, put aside what you have learned and follow me.' How is it that you herein act so differently from your conduct in calling in the lapidary to cut the gem?" King Hui Wang Dos. The people of Qi attacked Yan and conquered it. The king Tuan asks, saying, "Some tell me not to take possession of it for myself, and some tell me to take possession of it for a kingdom of 10,000 chariots, attacking another of 10,000 chariots. To complete the conquest of it in 50 days is an achievement beyond mere human strength. If I do not take possession of it, calamities from heaven will surely come upon me. What do you say to my taking possession of it? Menko replies, if the people of Yan will be pleased with your taking possession of it, then do so. Amongst the ancients there was one who acted on this principle, namely King Wu. If the people of Yan will not be pleased with your taking possession of it, then do not do so. Amongst the ancients there was one who acted on this principle, namely King Wen. When with all the strength of your country of 10,000 chariots, you attacked another country of 10,000 chariots, and the people brought baskets of rice and vessels of congee to meet your majesty's host. Was there any other reason for this but that they hoped to escape out of fire and water? If you make the water further deep and the fire further fierce, then will in like manner make another revolution. The people of Qi having smitten Yan, take possession of it, and upon this the princes of the various states deliberated together and resolved to deliver Yan from their power. The king Tuan says to Menko, the princes have formed many plans to attack me. How shall I prepare myself for them? Menko replies, I have heard of one who is 70 li, exercise all the functions of government throughout the kingdom. That was Tong. I have never heard of a prince with 1,000 li standing in fear of others. It is said in the book of history, as soon as Tong began his work of executing justice, he commenced with Ge. The whole kingdom had confidence in him. When he pursued his work in the east, the Ru tribes on the west murmured. So did those on the north when he was engaged in the south. Their cry was, why does he put us last? Thus the people looked to him as we look in the time of great drought to the clouds and rainbows. The frequenters of the market stopped not. The husbandmen made no change in their operations. Whilst he punished the rulers, he consoled the people. His progress was like the falling of opportune rain, and the people were delighted. It is said again in the book of history, we have waited for our prince long. The prince's coming will be our reviving. Now the ruler of Yan was terrorizing over his people, and your majesty went and punished him. The people supposed that you were going to deliver them out of the water and the fire, and brought baskets of rice and vessels of congee and to meet your majesty's host. But you have slain their fathers and elder brothers, and put their sons and younger brothers in confinement. You have pulled down the ancestral temples of the state, and are removing to Qi its precious vessels. How can such a course be deemed proper? The rest of the kingdom is indeed jealously afraid of the strength of Qi, and now when with a double territory you do not put in practice a benevolent government, it is this which sets the aim of the kingdom in motion. If your majesty will make haste to issue an ordinance restoring your captives, old and young, stopping the removal of the precious vessels, and saying that after consulting with the people of Yen, you will appoint them a ruler and withdraw from the country. In this way you may still be able to stop the threatened attack. There had been a brush between Zhao and Le. When the Duke Mu asks Menke, saying, of my officers there were killed 33 men, and none of the people would die in their defense. Though I sentenced them to death for their conduct, it is impossible to put such a multitude to death. If I do not put them to death, then there is the crime unpunished of their looking angrily on at each other, at their looking angrily on at the death of their officers and not saving them. How is the exigency of the case to be met? Menko replies, in calamitous years and years of famine, the old and weak of your people who have been found lying in the ditches and water channels, and the able-bodied who have been scattered about to the four quarters, have amounted to several thousand. All the while your granaries, O prince, have been stored with grain, and your treasuries and arsenals have been full, and not one of your officers has told you of the distress. Thus negligent that have the superiors in your state been, and cruel to their inferiors. The philosopher Zhang said, beware, beware. What proceeds from you and will return to you again. Now at length the people had paid back the conduct of their officers to them. Do not you, O prince, blame them. If you will put in practice a benevolent government, this people will love you and all above them, and will die for their officers. The Duke Wen of Tong asked Min Ke, saying, Tang is a small kingdom and lies between Qi and Chu. Shall I serve Qi or shall I serve Chu? Min Ke replies, This plan which you propose is beyond me. If you will have me counsel you, there is one thing I can suggest. Dig deeper your moats, build high your halls, your walls, guard them as well as your people. In case of attack, be prepared to die in your defense and have the people so that they will not leave you. This is a proper course. The Duke Wen of Tong asked Min Ke, saying, The people of Qi are going to fortify Tu. The movement occasions me great alarm. What is the proper course for me to take in the case? Min Ke replies firmly, When King Tai dwelt in Bin, the barbarians of the north were continually making incursions upon it. He therefore left it, went to the foot of Mount Qi, and there took up his residence. He did not take that situation as having selected it. It was a matter of necessity with him. If you do benevolence amongst your descendants in after generations, there shall be one who will attain to the royal dignity. A prince lays the foundation of the inheritance and hands down the beginning which he has made, doing what he may be continued by his successors, as the accomplishment of the great result that is with heaven. What is that Qi to you, O prince? Be strong to do benevolence. That is all your business. The Duke Wen of Tong asked Min Ke, saying, Tang is a small state. Though I do my utmost to serve those large kingdoms on either side of it, we cannot escape suffering from them. What course shall I take that we may do so? Min Ke replies firmly, When King Tai dwelt in Bin, the barbarians of the north were constantly making incursions upon it. He served them with skins and silks, and still he suffered from them. He served them with dogs and horses, and still he suffered from them. He served them with pearls and gems, and still he suffered from them. Seeing this, he assembled the old men and announced to them, saying, What the barbarians want is my territory. I have heard this, that a ruler does not injure his people with that wherewith he nourishes them. My children, why should you be troubled about having no prince? I will leave this town. Accordingly, he left Bin across the mountain. Liang built a house at the foot of Mount Qi and dwelt there. The people of Pin said, He is a benevolent man. We must not lose him. Those who followed him looked like crowds hastening to market on their hands. On the other hand, some say the sovereignty is a thing to be kept from generation to generation. One individual cannot undertake to dispose of it in his person. Let him be prepared to die for it. Let him not quit it. I ask you, Prince, to make your election between these two courses. The Duke Ping of Lu was about to leave his palace when his favorite one, Tong Chong, makes a request to him, saying, On other days when you have gone out, you have given instructions to the officers as to where you were going. But now the horses have been put into the carriage, and the officers do not yet know where you are going. I venture to ask. The Duke says, I am going to see the scholar Meng. How is this, said the other, that you demean yourself, Prince, in paying the honor of the visit? The first visit to a common man is, I suppose, because you think that he is a man of talents and virtue. By such men, the rules of ceremonial proprieties and rites are observed, but on the occasion of this Ming's second grieving, his observances exceed those of the former. Do not go to see him, my prince. The Duke said, I will not. The officer Yu Tong enters the court and has an audience. He says, Prince, why have you not gone to see Min Ke? The Duke says, One told me that on the occasion of the scholar Ming's second grieving, his observances exceeded those of the former. It is on that account that I have not gone to see him. How is this? Answered Yu Tong. By what do you call exceeding, you mean? I suppose that on the first occasion he utilized the rights appropriate to a scholar, and on the second, all those appropriate to a great officer, that he first utilized 3 tripods and afterwards 5 tripods. The Duke says, No, I refer to the greater excellence of the coffin, the shell of the grave clothes, and the shroud. Yo Chong says, That cannot be called exceeding. That was difference between being poor and being rich. After this, Yuezong saw Minko and said to him, I told the prince about you, and he was consequently coming to see you when one of his favorites named Zong Chung stopped him, and therefore he did not come according to his purpose. Minko says, a man's advancement is affected, it may be by others. The stopping him is, it may be, from the effect of others. But to advance a man or to stop his advance is truly beyond the power of other men. By not finding in the prince of Lu a ruler who would confide in me and put my counsels into practice is from heaven, how could that scion of the Zhang family cause me not to find the ruler that would suit me? Digha Mahaparinibbana Sutta 16, chapter 3. Then the gracious one, having dressed in the matin, after picking up his bowl and robe, entered Vesali for alms. After walking for alms in Vesali and returning from the alms run, after the meal, he addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, Take up the sitting mat, Ananda. We will approach the Chapala shrine to dwell for the day. Very well, Reverend Sir, said Venerable Ananda, and after replying to the gracious one and taking the sitting mat, he followed along close behind the gracious one. Then the gracious one approached the Chapala shrine, and after approaching, he sat down on the prepared seat, and also Venerable Ananda, after honoring the gracious one, sat down on one side. While sitting on one side, the gracious one said this to Venerable Ananda. Delightful Ananda is Vesali, delightful is the Udena shrine, delightful is the Gotamaka shrine, delightful is the Santamba shrine, delightful is the Many Sun shrine, delightful is the Sarandada shrine, delightful is the Chapala shrine. Whoever has developed and made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated Whoever has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power, could, if he wanted, Ananda, remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. The realized one has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power. If he wanted Ananda, the realized one could remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. But Venerable Ananda, despite such a gross hint being made by the gracious one, such a gross suggestion being made, was unable to penetrate it, and did not beg the gracious one, saying, May the gracious one remain, Reverend Sir, for the lifespan. May the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men, like one whose mind was possessed by Mara. For a second time the gracious one addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, Delightful Ananda is Vesali, delightful is the Udena shrine, delightful is the Gotamaka shrine, delightful is the Santamba shrine, delightful is the Many Sun shrine, delightful is the Saradanda shrine, delightful is the Chapala shrine. Whoever has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power, could, if he wanted, remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. The realized one has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power. If he wanted Ananda, the realized one could remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. But Venerable Ananda, despite such a gross hint being made by the gracious one, such a gross suggestion being made, was unable to penetrate it, and did not beg the gracious one, saying, May the gracious one remain, Reverend Sir, for the lifespan. May the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men, like one whose mind was possessed by Mara. For a third time, the gracious one addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, Delightful Ananda is Vesali, delightful is the Udana shrine, delightful is the Gautamaka shrine, delightful is the Satamba shrine, delightful is the Many Suns shrine, delightful is the Sarandada shrine, delightful is the Chapala shrine. Whoever has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power, could, if he wanted, remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. The realized one has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power. If he wanted, Ananda, the realized one, could remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. But Venerable Ananda, despite such a gross hint being made by the gracious one, such a gross suggestion being made, was unable to penetrate it, and did not beg the gracious one, saying, May the gracious one remain, reverend sir, for the lifespan. May the fortunate one remain for the lifespan. May for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men, like one whose mind was possessed by Mara. Then the gracious one addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, Go Ananda, now is the time for whatever you are thinking. Very well, Reverend Sir, said Venerable Ananda, and after replying to the gracious one, rising up his seat and honoring and circumambulating the gracious one, he sat down not distantly away at the root of a certain tree. Then the wicked Mara, not long after the Venerable Ananda had gone, approached the gracious one, and after approaching, he stood on one side. While standing on one side, the wicked Mara said this to the gracious one, May the gracious one attain final emancipation. Now, Reverend Sir, may the fortunate one attain final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For these words, Reverend Sir, were spoken by the gracious one, I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one. For as long as my bhikshus are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's bhikshus are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain a final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For these words, Reverend Sir, were spoken by the gracious one. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my nuns, my bhikshunis, are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's bhikshunis are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain a final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain a final emancipation. Now is the right time. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For these words, Reverend Sir, were spoken by the gracious one. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my laymen are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's laymen are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation now. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For these words, Reverend Sir, were spoken by the gracious one. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my lay women are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the practice, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's laywomen are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For these words, Reverend Sir, were spoken by the gracious one. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as the spiritual life of mine has not become successful and prosperous, well spread out, possessed by many, become great, until it is well explained amongst celestial beings and men. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's spiritual life is successful and prosperous, well spread out, possessed by many, become great. It is well explained amongst celestials and men. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. When that was said, the gracious one said this to the wicked Mara: You should have little concern, wicked one. In no long time, the realized one will be finally emancipated. After 3 months have passed from now, the realized one will attain final emancipation. Then at the Chapala shrine, the gracious one mindfully, with full awareness, relinquished the life process. And with the relinquishment of the life process by the gracious one, there was a great earthquake and fearful, horrifying crash of the angels of the celestial thunder drum. Then the gracious one, having understood the significance of it on that occasion, uttered this exalted utterance: measurable and immeasurable continuity, and the continuation process the sage relinquished. Content in himself and concentrated, he broke continuity of self like a coat of mail. Then it occurred to Venerable Ananda, surely it was wonderful, surely it is marvelous, this great earthquake, this very great earthquake, and this awful hair-raising crash of the celestial thunder's drum. What was the reason? What was the cause for the occurrence of this great earthquake? Then Venerable Ananda approached the gracious one, and after approaching and honoring the gracious one, he sat down at one side. Sitting on one side, Venerable Ananda said this to the gracious one: Surely it is wonderful, Reverend Sir. Surely it is marvelous, Reverend Sir, this great earthquake, this very great earthquake, and this awful hair-raising crash of the celestial thunder drum. What was the reason, Reverend Sir? What was the cause for the occurrence of this great earthquake? There are these 8 reasons, 8 causes, Ananda, for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Which 8? This great earth, Ananda, stands in the water stands in the atmosphere stands in space. There comes a time, Ananda, when great winds blow. With the great winds blowing, the waters move. The waters having moved, the earth moves. This is the first reason for the first cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, when an ascetic or a Brahmin or an angel, one of great power, one of great majesty, has through spiritual power attained complete mastery of the mind, and has then developed even a trifling perception of the earth or an unlimited perception of water, this earth moves, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the second reason, the second cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, when the Buddha to be falls away from the Tusita host and mindfully with full awareness enters his Moor's womb, this earth moves, water, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the third reason, the third cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, when the Buddha to be mindfully with full awareness exits his Moor's womb, this earth moves, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the third reason, the fourth reason, the fourth cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, When the realized one perfectly awakens to the unsurpassed and perfect awakening, this earth moves, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the fifth reason, the fifth cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, when the realized one sets the unsurpassed wheel of the Dharma rolling, this earth moves, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the sixth reason, the sixth cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, when the realized one mindfully, with full awareness, gives up the life process, this earth moves, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the seventh reason, the seventh cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. Further, Ananda, when the realized one is finally emancipated in the emancipation element, which has no basis for attachment remaining, this earth moves, wavers, flutters, and shakes. This is the eighth reason, the eighth cause for the occurrence of a great earthquake. These are the 8 reasons, the 8 causes, Ananda, for the occurrence of a great earthquake. There are, Ananda, 8 assemblies, which 8? The assembly of nobles, the assembly of Brahmins, the assembly of householders, the assembly of ascetics, the assembly of the 4 great sovereigns, the assembly of the Devatimsa divinities, the assembly of Mara, the assembly of Brahma divinities, the assembly of Brahma celestials. I know, Ananda, after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of nobles, that there before settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become, whatever their voice was, my voice would become, and I instructed, roused, and enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, and whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and I would ask, who is this speaking, an angel or a man? And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man? I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of Brahmins, that their being settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become, whatever their voice was, my voice would become, and I instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, and whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this speaking, an angel or a man? And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man? I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of householders, that there, before settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become, whatever their voice was, my voice would become, and I instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, and whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this speaking, an angel or a man? And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man? I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of ascetics, that there, before settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become, whatever their voice was, my voice would become, and I instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, and whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this speaking, an angel or a man? And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, I disappeared. When I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man? I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of the 4 great kings, that there being settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become, whatever their voice was, my voice would become, and I instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, and whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this speaking, an angel or a man? And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man? I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of the Devatimsa angels, that there being settling down, before settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become, whatever their voice was, my voice would become, and I instructed, roused, and enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, and whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this speaking, an angel or a man? And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the teaching, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man? I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of Mara, that there being settling down, being, conversing, and being, and before conversing and before entering. Upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become. Whatever their voice was, my voice would become. And I instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with the talk about the Dharma. And whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and I would ask, "Who is this speaking, an angel or a man?" And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the teaching, the Dhamma, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and would ask, "Who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man?" I know, Ananda, that after approaching countless hundreds of assemblies of the Brahman celestials, that there being settling down, before conversing, and before entering upon discussion, whatever their appearance was, my appearance would become. Whatever their voice was, my voice would become. And I instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the teaching, the Dhamma. And whilst I was speaking, they did not know me, and would ask, "Who is this speaking, an angel or a man?" And having instructed, roused, enthused, and cheered them with a talk about the Dhamma, I disappeared. And when I had disappeared, they did not know me, and I would ask, "Who is this who disappeared, an angel or a man?" These, Ananda, are the 8 assemblies. There are, Ananda, 8 means of mind mastery, which 8: perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, limited, beautiful, or ugly, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the first means of mind mastery. Perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, limited, unlimited, beautiful, or ugly, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the second means of mind mastery. Without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, limited, ugly, beautiful, or ugly, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the third means of mind mastery. Without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, unlimited, beautiful, or ugly, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the fourth means of mind mastery. Without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, blue color and blue appearance, shiny blue, just as the flower called Uma is blue colored, of blue appearance, shiny blue, or just as there is Banaras cloth, smooth on both sides, that is blue, that blue colored, of blue appearance, shiny blue, so that without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, blue colored, of blue appearance, shiny blue, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the fifth means of mind mastery. Without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, yellow colored, of yellow appearance, shiny yellow, just as the flower called Kanikara is yellow colored, of yellow appearance, shiny yellow, or just as there is Banaras cloth, smooth on both sides, that is yellow color, of yellow appearance, shiny yellow. So without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, yellow color, of yellow appearance, shiny yellow, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the sixth means of mind mastery. Without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, red colored, and red appearance, shiny red, just as the flower called Bandhu Javaka is red colored, of red appearance, shiny red, or just as there is a Banaras cloth, smooth on both sides, that is red colored, and of red appearance, shiny red. So without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, red colored, of red appearance, shiny red, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the seventh means of mind mastery. Without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, white colored, of white appearance, shiny white, just as the Asadi star is white colored, of white appearance, shiny white, or just as there is a Banaras cloth, smooth on both sides, that is white colored, of white appearance, shiny white. So there, without perceiving forms internally, someone sees forms externally, white colored, of white appearance, shiny white, and having mastered them, he is one who perceives thus, I know, I see. This is the eighth means of mind mastery. These, Ananda, are the 8 means of mind mastery. The 8 liberations. There are, Ananda, 8 liberations, which 8: one having form sees form. This is the first liberation. Not perceiving forms internally, he sees forms externally. This is the second liberation. One is intent on endless beauty. This is the third liberation. Having completely transcended perception of form with the appearance and of perception of sensory impact, not attending to perceptions of variety, understanding. This is endless space. He abides in the sphere of endless space. This is the fourth liberation. Having completely transcended the sphere of endless space understanding, this is endless consciousness, he abides in the sphere of endless consciousness. This is the fifth liberation. Having completely transcended the sphere of endless consciousness understanding, this is nothing, he abides in the sphere of nothingness. This is the sixth liberation. Having completely transcended the sphere of nothingness, he abides in the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. This is the seventh liberation. Having completely transcended the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, he abides in the cessation of perception and feeling. This is the eighth liberation. These, Ananda, are the eight liberations. At one time, Ananda, I was living at Auravela on the bank of the river Narajara at the root of the goat herd's banyan tree in the first period after attaining awakening. Then Ananda, the wicked Mara, approached me, and after approaching, he stood on one side. While standing to one side, Ananda, the wicked Mara, said this to me: May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. After this was said, Ananda, I said this to the wicked Mara: I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my bhikshus are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my bhikshunis are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my laymen are not true disciples, accomplished, well-disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correcting their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. I will not attain a final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my lay women are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as the spiritual life of mine has not become successful and prosperous, well spread out, possessed by many, become great until it is well explained amongst angels and men. Now today, Ananda, at the Chapala shrine, the wicked Mara approached me, and after approaching, he stood on one side. While standing on one side, the wicked Mara said this to me: May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation now. Is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For these words, Reverend Sir, were spoken by the gracious one. I will not attain final emancipation, wicked Mara, for as long as my bhikshus are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious ones, monks, bhikshus, are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing conformity with the Dhamma, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For the gracious one has said these words: I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my bhikshunis are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, teach, correct in their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teachers, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's bhikkhunis are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing conformity with the Dhamma, correcting their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke, with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation now is the time, Reverend Sir. For the gracious one's final emancipation. For the gracious one has said these words: I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my laymen are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing conformity with the Dhamma, correcting their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's laymen are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, well learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing conformity with the Dhamma, correcting their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation. Now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For the gracious one has said these words: I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as my lay women are not true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correcting their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, will declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's lay women are true disciples, accomplished, disciplined, confident, learned, bearers of the Dhamma, practicing in conformity with the Dhamma, correcting their practice, living in conformity with the Dhamma, and having learned it from their own teacher, do declare, reveal, make known, set forth, open up, analyze, make plain, after giving a benevolent rebuke with reason to the doctrines of others that have arisen, and teach the miraculous Dhamma. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. For the gracious one has said these words: I will not attain final emancipation, wicked one, for as long as the spiritual life of mine has not become successful and prosperous, well spread out, possessed by many, become great, until it is well explained amongst angels and men. But at present, Reverend Sir, the gracious one's spiritual life is successful and prosperous, well spread out, possessed by many, become great, is well established amongst angels and men. May the gracious one attain final emancipation now, Reverend Sir. May the fortunate one attain final emancipation now is the time, Reverend Sir, for the gracious one's final emancipation. And when that was said, Ananda, I said this to the wicked Mara: you should have little concern, wicked Mara. In no long time, the realized one will be finally emancipated. After 3 months have passed from now, the realized one will attain final emancipation. Now today, Ananda, at the Chapala shrine, the realized one, mindfully with full awareness, gave up the life process. When this was said, Venerable Ananda said this to the gracious one: let the gracious one remain, Reverend Sir, for the lifespan. Let the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, having compassion on the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. Enough, Ananda, do not beg the realized one. Now is the wrong time, Ananda, for begging the realized one. For a second time, Venerable Ananda said this to the gracious one: let the gracious one remain, Reverend Sir, for the lifespan. Let the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of the many people, for the happiness of many people, having compassion on the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. Enough, Ananda, do not beg the realized one. Now is the wrong time, Ananda, for begging the realized one. For a third time, Venerable Ananda said this to the gracious one: let the gracious one remain, Reverend Sir, for the lifespan. Let the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of the many people, for the happiness of many people, for the compassion on the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. Do you, Ananda, have faith in the realized one's awakening? Yes, Reverend Sir. Then why do you, Ananda, harass the realized one up until the third time? Face to face with me, Reverend Sir, you face to face, I have heard you say, whoever has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the 4 paths to power, could, if he wanted to remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. The realized one has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the 4 paths to power. If he wanted Ananda, the realized one could remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. Do you have faith in Ananda? Yes, Rava, sir. Then Ananda, there is no wrongdoing for you. Then Ananda, there is this wrongdoing for you, that there is this fault for you, in that you, despite such a gross hint being made by the realized one, such a gross suggestion being made, was unable to penetrate it, and did not beg the realized one, saying, May the gracious one remain, reverend sir, for the lifespan. May the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. If you, Ananda, had begged the realized one twice, the realized one might have rejected your speech, but would have accepted it on the third occasion. So, Ananda, there is this wrongdoing for you, there is this fault for you. At one time, Ananda, I was living at Rajagaha on the Vulture's Peak mountain. I was living right there at Rajagaha near the Gautama Banya tree. I was living there right there at Rajagaha near the Thieves precipice. I was living right there at Rajagaha on the side of the Vibara mountain in the Sven lakes. I was living right there at Rajagaha on the other side of the Isigili mountain on Black Rock. I was living right there at the Rajagaha in the cool wood. At the Snake Tank slope, I was living right there at Rajagaha in the river Tapoda Monastery. I was living right there near Rajagaha at Javaka's Mango Wood. I was living right there near Rajagaha in the Deer Park at the place called Crushing Womb. In that place, Ananda, I addressed you, saying, Delightful Ananda is Rajagaha, delightful is the Vulture's Peak mountain, delightful is the Gautama Banyan tree, delightful is the Thieves precipice, delightful is the side of the Vibara mountain in the seven leaves cave, delightful is the side of the Isigili mountain on the Black Rock, delightful is the cool wood at the Snake Tank slope, delightful is the river Tapoda Monastery. Delightful is the squirrel's feeding place in Bamboo Wood. Delightful is Javaga's Mango Wood. Delightful is the Deer Park at the place called Crushing Womb. Whoever has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power, could, if he wanted, remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. The realized one has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power. If he wanted Ananda, the realized one could remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. But despite such a gross hint being made by the realized one, such a gross suggestion being made, you were unable to penetrate it, and did not beg the realized one, saying, May the gracious one remain, reverend sir, for the lifespan. May the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. If you, Ananda, had begged the realized one twice, the realized one might have rejected your speech, but would have accepted it on the third occasion. So, Ananda, there is this wrongdoing for you, there is this fault for you. At one time, Ananda, I was living right here near Vasali in the Yodhana shrine. I was living right here near Vasali in the Gautamaka shrine. I was living right here near Vasali in the Seven Mango shrine. I was living right here near Vasali in the Many Sun shrine. I was living right here near Vasali in the Sarandada shrine. And here today, Ananda, at the Chapala shrine, I addressed you, saying, Delightful Ananda is Vasali, delightful is the Yodhana shrine, delightful is the Gautama shrine, Gautamaka shrine, delightful is the Seven Mangoes shrine, delightful is the Many Sun shrine, delightful is the Sarandada shrine, delightful is the Chapala shrine. Whoever has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power, could, if he wanted, remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. The realized one has developed Ananda, made much of, carried on, established, maintained, augmented, and properly instigated the four paths to power. If he wanted, Ananda, the realized one, could remain for the lifespan or for what is left of the lifespan. But despite such a gross hint, Ananda, being made by the realized one, such a gross suggestion being made, you were unable to penetrate it, and did not beg the realized one, saying, May the gracious one remain, reverend sir, for the lifespan, may the fortunate one remain for the lifespan, for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. If you, Ananda, had begged the realized one twice, the realized one might have rejected your speech, but would have accepted it on the third occasion. So, Ananda, there is this wrongdoing for you, there is this fault for you. Were you not warned by me when I declared there is alteration and separation from the changeability and all that is dear and appealing? How can it be otherwise Nanda? For that which is obtained, born, become, conditioned, subject to dissolution. It is not possible to say this, it should not dissolve, but this has been relinquished, cast out, let loose, abandoned by the realized one, forsaken, the life process that has been given up. For sure, this word was spoken by the realized one. Not long there will be the realized one's final emancipation. After passing of 3 months, the realized one will attain final emancipation. The realized one cannot, for the sake of life, go back on that. It is not possible. Kamananda, let us approach the gabled household in the great wood. Very well, Reverend Sir. Venerable Ananda replied to the gracious one. Then the gracious one with Venerable Ananda approached the gabled household in the great wood, and after approaching, he addressed Venerable Ananda, saying, Go, Ananda, and whatever monks are living in dependence on Vaisali, assemble them in the attendance hall. Very well, Reverend Sir, said Venerable Ananda, after replying to the gracious one and assembling whatever monks were living in dependence on Vaisali in the attendance hall, he approached the gracious one, and after approaching and worshipping the gracious one, he stood at one side. While standing on one side, Venerable Ananda said this to the gracious one. The Sangha of Bhikshus has assembled, Reverend Sir. Now is the time, gracious one, for whatever you are thinking. Then the gracious one approached the attendance hall, and after approaching, he sat down on the prepared seat. While sitting, the gracious one addressed the bhikshus, saying, Therefore, bhikshus, whatever Dhamma teachings have with deep knowledge been taught by me, after grasping them well, you should practice, develop, and make a lot of them, so that the spiritual life may last long and may endure for a long time, and that will be for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. And what are those teachings that have with deep knowledge been taught by me, which after grasping them well, you should practice, develop, and make a lot of them, so that the spiritual life may last long and may endure for a long time. That will be for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. They are as follows: the 4 ways of attending to mindfulness, the 4 right strivings, the 4 paths to power, the 5 faculties, the 5 strengths, the 7 factors of awakening, the noble 8-fold path. These monks are those Dharma that have with deep knowledge been taught by me. After grasping them well, you should practice, develop, and make a lot of them, so that the spiritual life may last long and may endure for a long time, and that will be for the benefit of many people, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the well-being, benefit, and happiness of angels and men. Then the gracious one addressed the bhikshus, saying, Come now, bhikshus, for I tell you, all conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with heedfulness. Not long now there will be the realized one's final emancipation. After the passing of 3 months, after the realized one will attain final emancipation. The gracious one said this, and after saying this, the fortunate one, the teacher, said something further. Youths, and also the old, fools, and also the wise, rich, and also the poor, all end in death. Like an earthen vessel made by a potter small and great, that which is baked and unbaked, all end in breakage, just so life ends in death. Then the teacher said something further. Well matured, decayed, with little of my life remaining, having abandoned rebirth, I will go, having made myself a refuge. Be heedful, mindful, and virtuous monks, with well-reasoned thoughts, protect your minds. Whoever in this Dhamma and discipline will live heedful, having given up the round of rebirths, he will put an end to suffering. Dhammapada. Tanya Vaga 24. The craving of one given to heedless living grows like a creeper, like the monkey seeking fruits in the forest. He leaps from life to life, tasting the fruit of his karma. Whoever is overcome by this wretched and sticky craving, his sorrows grow like grass after the rains. But whoever overcomes this wretched craving, so difficult to overcome, from his sorrows, he falls away like water from a lotus leaf. This I say to you, benevolent luck to all assembled here. Dig up the root of craving, like one in search of the fragrant root of the barana grass. Let not Mara crush you again and again, as the flood crushes the reed. Just as a tree, though cut down, sprouts out up again if its roots remain uncut and firm. Even so, until the craving that lies dormant is rooted out, suffering springs up again and again. The misguided man in whom the 36 currents of craving strongly rush towards pleasurable objects is swept away by the flood of his passionate thoughts. Everywhere these currents flow, and the creeper of craving sprouts and grows, seeing that the creeper has sprung up, cut off its root with wisdom. Flowing in from all objects and watered by cravings, feelings of pleasure arise in beings bent on pleasures and seeking enjoyment. These men fall prey to birth and decay. Beset by craving, people run about like an entrapped hare. Held fast by mental fetters, they come to suffering again and again for a long time. Beset by craving, people run about like an entrapped hare. Therefore, one who yearns to be passion-free should destroy his own craving. There is one who, turning away from desire for household life, takes to the life of the forest of a monk. But after being freed from the household, he runs back to it. Behold, that man, though freed, he runs back to that very bondage. That is not a strong fetter, the wise say, which is made of iron or wood or hemp, but the infatuation and longing for jewels and ornaments, children and wives. That, they say, is a distantly stronger fetter which pulls one downwards, and though seemingly loose, is hard to remove. This too the wise cut off, giving up sensual pleasure, and without any longing they renounce the world. Those who are less infatuated fall back into the swirling current of samsara like a spider on its self-spun web. This too the wise cut off, without any longing they abandon all suffering and renounce the world. Let go of the past, let go of the future, let go of the present, and cross over to the further shore of existence. With mind wholly liberated, you shall come no further to birth and death. For a person tormented by evil thoughts, who is passion dominated and given to the pursuit of pleasure, his craving steadily grows, he makes the fetter strong indeed. He who delights in subduing evil thoughts, who meditates on the impurities and is ever mindful, it is he who will make an end of craving and rend asunder Mara's fetter. He who has reached the goal is fearless, free from craving, passionless, and has plucked out the thorns of existence. For him this is the last body. He who is free from craving and attachment is perfect in covering the true meaning of the teaching and knows the Dhamma and knows the arrangement of the sacred text and correct sequence. He indeed is the bearer of final body. He is truly called the profoundly wise one, the great man. A victor am I over all have I known. Yet attached am I to all that is conquered and known. Abandoning all, I am freed from the destruction of craving, having thus directly comprehended all by myself. Whom shall I call my teacher? The gift of Dhamma excels all gifts. The taste of Dhamma excels all tastes. The delight in Dhamma excels all delights. The craving freed vanquishes all suffering. Riches ruin only the foolish, not those in quest of the beyond. By craving for riches, the witless man ruins himself as well as others. Weeds are the bane of fields, lust is the bane of mankind. Therefore, what is offered to those freed of lust yields abundant fruit. Weeds are the bane of fields, hatred is the bane of mankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of hatred yields abundant great fruit. Weeds are the bane of fields, delusion is the bane of mankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of delusion yields abundant fruit. Weeds are the bane of fields, desire is the bane of mankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of desire yields abundant fruit. Gospels, Luke chapter 3 a 4. In the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, when Pontius Pilate was governor of Judea, Herod, tetrarch of Galilee, his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, and Trachonitis, and Lysanias, and tetrarch of Abilene, during the high priesthood of Annas and Cephas, the word of God came to John, son of Zechariah, in the wilderness. He went into all the country around the Jordan, preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. As it is written in the book of the words of Isaiah the prophet, a voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for God, make straight paths for God. Every valley shall be filled, every mountain and hill made low, the crooked roads shall become straight, the rough ways smooth, and all people will see God's salvation. John said to the crowds coming out to be baptized by him, "You brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the coming wrath? Produce fruit in keeping with repentance, and do not begin to say to yourselves, 'We have Abraham as our father.' For I tell you that out of these stones God can raise up children for Abraham. The axe is already at the root of the trees, and every tree that does not produce benevolent fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire." "What should we do then?" the crowd asked. John answered, "Anyone who has 2 shirts should share with the one who has none, and anyone who has food should do the same." Even tax collectors came to be baptized. "Teacher," they asked, "what should we do?" "Don't collect any further than you are required to," he told them. Then some soldiers asked him, "And what should we do?" He replied, "Don't extort money and don't accuse people falsely. Be content with your pay." The people were waiting expectantly and were all wondering in their hearts if John might possibly be the Messiah. John answered them all, "I baptize you with water, but one who is further powerful than I will come, the strap of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire." And with many other words, John exhorted the people and proclaimed the benevolent news to them. But when John rebuked Herod the Tetrarch because of his marriage to Herodias, his brother's wife, and all the other evil things he had done, Herod added this to them all: he locked John up in prison. When all the people were being baptized, Jesus was baptized too, and as he was praying, heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended on him in bodily form like a dove, and a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love, with you I am well pleased." Now Jesus himself was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. He was the son, so it was thought, of Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of Matthat, the son of Levi, the son of Melchi, the son of Yanai, the son of Joseph, the son of Mattathias, the son of Amos, the son of Nahum, the son of Esli, the son of Nagai, the son of Mat, the son of Mattathias, the son of Semen, the son of Yosek, the son of Yoda, the son of Yohanan, the son of Resa, the son of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, the son of Neri, the son of Melchi, the son of Adi, the son of Kosam, the son of Almanadam, the son of Er, the son of Yeshua, the son of Eleazar, the son of Yoram, the son of Matat, the son of Levi, the son of Shimon, the son of Yehuda, the son of Yosef, the son of Yonan, the son of Eliakim, the son of Melah, the son of Mena, the son of Mattatah, the son of Natan, the son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, the son of Salmon, the son of Nashon, the son of Aminadab, the son of Ram, the son of Hezron, the son of Perez, the son of Yehuda, the son of Yaakov, the son of Yitzhak, the son of Abraham, the son of Terah, the son of Nachor, the son of Serug, the son of Reu, the son of Peleg, the son of Eber, the son of Shelah, the son of Canaan, the son of Arphaxad, the son of Shem, the son of Noach, the son of Methuselah, the son of Enoch, the son of Yered, the son of Mahalalel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, left the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them he was hungry. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone." The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he said to him, "I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to you anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours." Jesus answered, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve God only." The devil led him to Jerusalem and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down from here, for it is written, God will command God's angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Jesus answers, "It is said, do not put the Lord your God to the test." When the devil had finished all this tempting, he left him until an opportune time. Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news about him spread through the whole countryside. He was teaching in their synagogues, and everyone honored him. He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on Shabbat he went into the synagogue, and as was his custom, he stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him, and unrolling it, he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of God is on me, because God has anointed me to proclaim benevolent news to the poor. God has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of God's favor." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." All people spoke well of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his lips. "And isn't this Joseph's son?" they asked. Jesus said to them, "Surely you will quote this proverb to me, 'Physician, you heal yourself.' And you will tell me, 'Do here in your hometown what we have heard that you did in Capernaum.' Truly I tell you," he continued, "no prophet is accepted in his hometown. I assure you that there were many widows in Israel in Eliyahu's time, when the sky was shut for 3.5 years, and there was a severe famine throughout the land. Yet Eliyahu was not sent to any of them, but to a widow in Zarephath in the region of Sidon. And there were many in Israel with leprosy in the time of Elisha the prophet, when no one of them was cleansed, only Naaman the Syrian. And the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up, drove him out of the town, and took him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built, in order to throw him off the cliff. But he walked right through the crowd and went on his way. Then he went down to Capernaum, a town in Galilee, and on Shabbat he taught the people. They were amazed at his teaching, because his words had authority. In the synagogue there was a man possessed by a demon, an impure spirit. He cried out at the top of his voice, "Go away, what do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," Jesus said sternly. "Come out of him." Then the demon threw the man down before them all, and came out without injuring him. All the people were amazed and said to each other, "What words these are! With authority and power he gives orders to impure spirits, and they come out." And the news about him spread throughout the surrounding area. Jesus left the synagogue and went to the home of Simon. Now Simon's mother-in-law was suffering from a high fever, and they asked Jesus to help her. So he bent over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her. She got up at once and began to wait on them. At Soleil said, the people brought to Jesus all who had various kinds of sickness, and laying his hands on each one, he healed them. Further, demons came out of many people, shouting, "You are the Son of God," but he rebuked them and would not allow them to speak, because they knew he was the Messiah. At daybreak, Jesus went out into a solitary place. The people were looking for him, and when they came to where he was, they tried to keep him from leaving them. But he said, "I must proclaim the benevolent news of the sovereignty of God to the other towns also, because I was sent for this purpose." And he was preaching in the synagogues of Judea. Quran, Surah Ash-Shu'ara, 26. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Ta Sin Mim. These are the verses of the book that makes things clear. It may be thou frettest thy soul with grief that they do not become believers. If such were our will, we could send down to them from the sky a sign to which they would bend their necks in humility. But there comes not to them a newly revealed message from Allah most gracious, but they turn away therefrom. They have indeed rejected the message, so they will know soon enough the truth of what they mocked at. Do they not look at the earth, how many noble things of all kinds we have produced therein? Verily this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. Behold, thy Lord called Moshe, go to the people of iniquity, the people of Pharaoh. Will they not fear Allah? He said, O my people, I do fear that they will charge me with falsehood. My breast will be straightened, and my speech may not go smoothly. So send on to Aaron. And further, they have a charge of crime against me, and I fear they may slay me. Allah said, by no means. Proceed then, both of you, with our signs. We are with you, and will listen to your call. So go forth, both of you, to Pharaoh, and say, we have been sent by the Lord and cherisher of the worlds. Send thou with us the children of Israel. Pharaoh said, did we not cherish thee as a child amongst us, and did thou not stay in our midst many years of thy life? And thou didst a deed of thine which thou knowest thou didst, and thou art an ungrateful wretch. Moshe said, I did it then when I was in error, so I fled from you all when I feared you. But my Lord has since invested me with judgment and wisdom, and appointed me as one of the apostles. And this is the favor with which thou dost reproach me, that thou hast enslaved the children of Israel. Pharaoh said, and what is the Lord and cherisher of the worlds? Moshe said, the Lord and cherisher of the heavens and the earth, and all between, if ye want to be quite sure. Pharaoh said to those around, do you not listen to what he says? Moshe said, your Lord and the Lord of your fathers from the beginning. Pharaoh said, truly your apostle who has been sent to you is a veritable madman. Moshe said, the Lord of the east and the west, and all between, if ye only had sense. Pharaoh said, if thou dost put forward any deity other than me, I will certainly put thee in prison. Moshe said, even if I show you something clear and convincing. Pharaoh said, show it then, if thou tellest the truth. So Moshe threw his rod, and behold, it was a serpent plain for all to see. And he drew out his hand, and behold, it was white to all beholders. Pharaoh said to the chiefs around him, this is indeed a sorcerer well versed. His plan is to get you out of your land by his sorcery. Then what is it ye counsel? They said, keep him and his brother in suspense for a while, and dispatch to the city's herald to collect and bring up to thee all our sorcerers well versed. So the sorcerers were got together for the appointment of a day well known. And the people were told, are ye now assembled, that we may follow the sorcerers in religion if they win? So when the sorcerers arrived, they said to Pharaoh, of course we shall have a suitable reward if we win. He said, yea, and further, that for ye shall in that case be raised to post nearest to my person. Moshe said to them, throw ye that which ye are about to throw. So they threw their ropes and their rods, and said, by the might of Pharaoh, it is we who will certainly win. Then Moshe threw his rod, when behold, it straightway swallows up all the falsehoods which they fake. Then did the sorcerers fall down prostrate in adoration, saying, we believe in the Lord of the worlds, the Lord of Moshe and Aaron. Said Pharaoh, believe ye in Allah before I give you permission. Surely Allah is your leader, who has taught you sorcery, but soon shall you know. Be sure I will cut off your hands and your feet on opposite sides, and I will cause you all to die on the cross. They said, no matter for us, we shall but return to our Lord. Only our desire is that our Lord will forgive us our faults, that we may become foremost amongst the believers. By inspiration we told Moshe, travel by night with my servants. Surely we shall be pursued. Then Pharaoh sent heralds to all the cities, saying, these Israelites are but a small band, and they are raging fiercely against us, but we are a multitude amply forewarned. So we expelled them from gardens, springs, treasures, and every kind of honorable position. Thus it was, but we made the children of Israel inheritors of such things. So they pursued them at sunrise. And when the two bodies saw each other, the people of Moshe said, we are sure to be overtaken. Moshe said, by no means, my Lord is with me. Soon will Allah guide me. Then we told Moshe by inspiration, strike the sea with thy rod. So it divided, and each separate part became like the huge, firm mass of a mountain. And we made the other party approach thither, and we delivered Moshe and all who were with him, but we drowned the others. Verily, this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily, thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. And rehearsed to them something of Abraham's story. Behold, he said to his father and his people, what worship ye? They said, we worship idols, and we remain constantly in attendance on them. He said, do they listen to you when you call on them, or do you benefit or harm? They said, nay, but we found our fathers doing thus what we do. He said, do ye then see whom ye have been worshipping, ye and your fathers before you? for they are enemies to me, not so the Lord and cherisher of the worlds, who created me, and it is Allah who guides me, who gives me food and drink, and when I am ill, it is Allah who cures me, who will cause me to die and then to live again, and who I hope will forgive me my faults on the day of judgment. My Lord bestowed wisdom on me and joined me with the righteous. Grant me honorable mention on the tongue of truth amongst the latest generations. Make me one of the inheritors of the garden of bliss. Forgive my father, for that he is amongst those astray. And let me not be in disgrace on the day when men will be raised up, the day whereon neither wealth nor sons will avail, but only he will prosper that brings to Allah a sound heart. To the righteous the garden will be brought near, and to those straying in evil the fire will be placed in full view. And it shall be said to them, where are the deities ye worship besides Allah? Can they help you or help themselves? Then they will be thrown headlong into the fire, they and those straying in evil. And the whole hosts of Iblis together, they will say there in their mutual bickerings, by Allah, we were truly in an error manifest, when we held you as equals with the Lord of the worlds, and our seducers were only those who were steeped in guilt. Now then, we have none to intercede for us, nor a single friend to feel for us. Now if we only had a chance of return, we shall truly be of those who believe. Verily, this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily, thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. The people of Noach rejected the apostles. Behold, their brother Noach said to them, will ye not fear Allah? I am to you an apostle worthy of all trust. So fear Allah and obey me. No reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. So fear Allah and obey me. They said, shall we believe in thee when it is the meanest that follow thee? He said, and what do I know as to what they do? Their account is only with my Lord, if ye could but understand. I am not one to drive away those who believe. I am sent only to warn plainly in public. They said, if thou desist not, O Noach, thou shalt be sown to death. He said, O my Lord, truly my people have rejected me. Judge not then between me and them openly, and deliver me and those of the believers who are with me. So we delivered him and those with him in the ark filled with all creatures. Thereafter we drowned those who remained behind. Verily, in this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily, thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. The odd people rejected the apostles. Behold, their brotherhood said to them, will ye not fear Allah? I am to you an apostle worthy of all trust. So fear Allah and obey me. No reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. Do ye build a landmark on every high place to amuse yourselves? And do ye get for yourselves fine buildings in the hope of living therein forever? And when ye exert your strong hand, do ye do it like men of absolute power? Now fear Allah and obey me. Yea, fear Allah, who has bestowed on you freely all that ye know. Freely has Allah bestowed on you cattle and sons, and gardens and springs. Truly I fear for you the penalty of a great day. They said, it is the same to us whether thou admonish us, or be not amongst our admonishers. This is no other than a customary device of the ancients, and we are not the ones to receive pains and penalties. So they rejected him, and we destroyed them. Verily, this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily, thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. And the Talmud people rejected the apostles. Behold, their brother Salih said to them, will ye not fear Allah? I am to you an apostle worthy of all trust. So fear Allah and obey me. No reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. Will ye be left secure in the enjoyment of all that ye have heard, in all that ye have here, gardens and springs and cornfields and date palms with space and near breaking with the weight of fruit? And ye carve houses out of rocky mountains with great skill, but fear Allah and obey me, and follow not the bidding of those who are extravagant, who make mischief in the land, and mend not their ways. They said, thou art only one of those bewitched. Thou art no further than a living being like us. Then bring us a sign if thou tell us the truth. He said, here is a she-camel. She is a hamstring. She has a right of watering, and ye have a right of watering severally on a day appointed. Touch her not with harm, lest the penalty of a great day seize you. But they hamstrung her, then did they become full of regrets, but the penalty seized them. Verily, and this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. The people of Lot rejected the apostles. Behold, their brother Lot said to them, Will ye not fear Allah? I am to you an apostle worthy of all trust, so fear Allah and obey me. No reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. Of all the creatures in the world, will ye approach males, and leave those whom Allah has created for you to be your mates? Nay, ye are a people transgressing all limits. They said, If thou desist not, O Lot, thou wilt surely be cast out. He said, I do detest your doings. O my Lord, deliver me and my family from such things as they do. So we delivered him and his family, all except an old woman who lingered behind, but the rest we destroyed utterly. We rained down on them a shower of brimstone, and evil was the shower on those who were admonished, but he did not. Verily, in this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily, thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. The companions of the wood rejected the apostles. Behold, Shu'aib said to them, Will ye not fear Allah? I am to you an apostle worthy of all trust. So fear Allah and obey me. No reward do I ask of you for it. My reward is only from the Lord of the worlds. Give just measure and cause no loss to others by fraud, and weigh with scales true and upright, and withhold not things justly due to men, nor do evil in the land working mischief. And fear Allah who created you and who created the generations before you. They said, Thou art only one of those bewitched. Thou art no further than a living being like us, and indeed we think thou art a liar. Now cause a portion of the sky to fall on us if thou art truthful. He said, My Lord knows best what ye do. But they rejected him. Then the punishment of a day of overshadowing gloom seized them, and that was the penalty of a great day. Verily this is a sign, but most of them do not believe. And verily thy Lord is Allah, the exalted in might, most merciful. Verily this is a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. With it came down the spirit of faith and truth to thy heart and mind, that thou mayest admonish in the perspicuous Arabic tongue. Without doubt it is announced in the mystic books of former peoples. Is it not a sign to them that the learned of the children of Israel knew it as true? Had we revealed it to any of the non-Arabs, and had he recited it to them, they would not have believed in it. Thus have we caused it to enter the hearts of the sinners. They will not believe in it until they see the grievous penalty, but the penalty will come to them of a sudden, whilst they perceive it not. Then they will say, Shall we be respited? Do they then ask for our penalty to be hastened on? Seest thou, if we do let them enjoy this life for a few years, yet there comes to them at length the punishment which they were promised. It will benefit them not that they enjoyed this life. Never did we destroy a population, but had its warners, by way of reminder, and we never are unjust. No evil ones have brought down this revelation. It would neither suit them, nor would they be able to produce it. Indeed, they have been removed distantly from even a chance of hearing it. So call not on any other deity with Allah, or thou wilt be amongst those under the penalty. And admonish thy nearest kinsman, and lower thy wing to the believers who follow thee. Then, if they disobey thee, they say, I am free of responsibility for what ye do. And put thy trust on the exalted in might, the merciful, who seeth thee standing forth in prayer, and thy movements amongst those who prostrate themselves. For it is Allah who heareth and knoweth all things. Shall inform you, O people, on whom it is that the evil ones descend. They descend on every lying wicked person, in whose ears they pour hearsay vanities, and most of them are liars. And the poets, it is those straying in evil who follow them. Seest thou not that they wander distracted in every valley, and that they say what they practice not? Except those who believe, work righteousness, engage much in the remembrance of Allah, and defend themselves only after they are unjustly attacked. And soon will the unjust assailants know what vicissitudes their affairs will take. Kitab y Actas, verse 58 a 76. Beware lest the desires of the flesh and a corrupt inclination provoke divisions amongst you. Be ye as the fingers of one hand, the members of one body. Thus counseleth you the pen of Revelation, if ye be of them that believe. Consider the mercy of God and God's gifts. God enjoineth upon you that which shall benefit you. Though God by God can well dispense with all creatures, your evil doings can never harm us, neither can your benevolent works benefit us. We summon you wholly for the sake of God. To this every man of understanding and insight will testify. If ye should hunt with beasts or birds of prey, invoke ye the name of God when ye send them to pursue their quarry. For then whatever they catch shall be lawful unto you, even should ye find it to have died. God verily is the omniscient, the all-informed. Take heed, however, that ye hunt not to excess. Tread ye the path of justice and equity in all things. Thus biddeth you God, who is the dawning place of revelation, would that ye might comprehend. God hath bidden you to show forth kindliness towards my kindred, but God hath created them no right to the property of others. God verily is self-sufficient, above any need of God's creatures. Should anyone intentionally destroy a house by fire, him also shall ye burn. Should anyone deliberately take another's life, him also shall ye put to death. Take ye hold of the precepts of God with all your strength and power, and abandon the ways of the ignorant. Should ye condemn the arsonist and the murderer to life imprisonment, it will be permissible according to the provisions of the book. God verily hath power to ordain whatsoever God pleaseth. God hath prescribed matrimony unto you. Beware that ye take not unto yourselves further wives than two. Whoso contenteth himself with a single partner from amongst the maidservants of God, both he and she shall live in tranquility. And he who would take into his service a maid may do so with propriety. Such is the ordinance which in truth and justice hath been recorded by the pen of Revelation. Enter into wedlock, O people, that ye may bring forth one who will make mention of me amidst my servants. This is my bidding unto you. Hold fast to it as an assistance to yourselves. O people of the world, follow not the promptings of the self, for it summoneth insistently to wickedness and lust. Follow rather God, who is the possessor of all created things, who biddeth you to show forth piety and manifest the fear of God. God verily is independent of all God's creatures. Take heed not to stir up mischief in the land after it hath been set in order. Whoso acteth in this way is not of us, and we are quit of him. Such is the command which hath through the power of truth been made manifest from the heaven of revelation. It hath been laid down in the Bayan that marriage is dependent upon the consent of both parties, desiring to establish love, unity, and harmony amidst our servants. We have conditioned it, once the couple's wish is known, upon the permission of their parents, lest enmity and rancor should arise amongst them. And in this we have yet other purposes. Thus hath our commandment been ordained. No marriage may be contracted without payment of a dowry, which hath been fixed for city dwellers at 19 mikals of pure gold, and for village dwellers at the same amount in silver. Whoso wisheth to increase the sum, it is forbidden him to exceed the limit of 95 mikals. Thus hath the command been writ in majesty and power. If he content himself, however, with the payment of the lowest level, it shall be better for him according to the book. God verily enricheth whomsoever God willeth through both heavenly and earthly means, and God in truth hath power over all things. It hath been decreed by God that should any one of God's servants intend to travel, he must fix for his wife a time when he will return home. If he return by the promised time, he will have obeyed the bidding of his Lord, and shall be numbered by the pen of God's behest amongst the righteous. Otherwise, if there be beneficial reason for delay, he must inform his wife and make the utmost endeavor to return to her. Should neither of these eventualities occur, it behooveth her to wait for a period of 9 months, after which there is no impediment to her taking another husband. But should she wait longer, God verily loveth those women and men who show forth patience. Obey ye my commandments, and follow not the unholy, they who have been reckoned as sinners in God's holy tablet. If during the period of her waiting word should reach her from her husband, she should choose the course that is honorable. God of a truth desireth that God's servants and God's handmaids should be at peace with one another. Take heed lest ye do aught that may provoke intransigence amongst you. Thus hath the decree been fixed, and the promise come to pass. If however news should reach her if her husband's death or murder, and be confirmed by general report or by the testimony of two just witnesses, it behooveth her to remain single. Then upon completion of the fixed number of months she is free to adopt the course of her choosing. Such is the bidding of God, who is mighty and powerful in God's command. Should resentment or antipathy arise between husband and wife, he is not to divorce her, but to bide in patience throughout the course of one whole year, that perchance the fragrance of affection may be renewed between them. If upon the completion of this period their love hath not returned, it is permissible for divorce to take place. God's wisdom verily hath encompassed all things. God hath prohibited in a tablet inscribed by the pen of God's command the practice to which ye formerly had recourse, when thrice ye had divorced a woman. This God hath done as a favor on God's part, that ye may be accounted amongst the thankful. God who hath divorced his wife, he who hath divorced his wife may choose upon the passing of each month to remarry her when there is mutual affection and consent, so long as she hath not taken another husband. Should she have wed again, then by this other union the separation is confirmed and the matter is concluded, unless clearly her circumstances change. Thus hath the decree been inscribed with majesty in this glorious tablet by God, who is the dawning place of beauty. If the wife accompany her husband on a journey and differences arise between them on the way, he is required to provide her with her expenses for one whole year, and either to return her whence she came, or to entrust her together with the necessaries for her journey to a dependable person who is to escort her home. Thy Lord verily ordaineth as God pleaseth, by virtue of a sovereignty that overshadoweth the peoples of the earth. Should a woman be divorced in consequence of a proven act of infidelity, she shall receive no maintenance during her period of waiting. Thus hath the day star of our commandment shone forth resplendent from the firmament of justice. Truly the Lord loveth union and harmony, and abhorreth separation and divorce. Live ye one with another, O people, in radiance and joy. By my life all that are on earth shall pass away, whilst benevolent deeds alone shall endure. To the truth of my words God doth by God self bear witness. Compose your differences, O my servants, then heed ye the admonition of our pen of glory, and follow not the arrogant and wayward. Take heed lest the world beguile you as it beguiled the people who went before you. Observe ye the statutes and precepts of your Lord, and walk ye in this way which hath been laid out before you in righteousness and truth. They who eschew iniquity and error, who adhere to virtue, are in the sight of the one true God amongst the choicest of God's creatures. Their names are extolled by the concourse of the realms above, and by those who dwell in this tabernacle which hath been raised in the name of God. It is forbidden you to trade in slaves, be they men or women. It is not for him who is himself a servant to buy another of God's servants, and this hath been prohibited in God's holy tablet. Thus by God's mercy hath the commandment been recorded by the pen of justice. Let no man exalt himself above another. All are but bondslaves before the Lord, and all exemplify the truth that there is none other deity but God. God verily is the all-wise, whose wisdom encompasseth all things. Adorn yourselves with the raiment of benevolent deeds. He whose deeds attain unto God's benevolent pleasure is assuredly of the people of Baha, and is remembered before God's throne. Assist ye the Lord of all creation with works of righteousness, and also through wisdom and utterance. Thus indeed have ye been commanded in most of the tablets by God, who is the all-merciful. God truly is cognizant of what I say. Let none contend with another, and let no soul slay another. This verily is that which was forbidden you in a book that hath lain concealed within the tabernacle of glory. What would ye kill him whom God hath quickened, whom God hath endowed with spirit through a breath from God? Grievous then would be your trespass before God's throne. Fear God, and lift not the hand of injustice and oppression to destroy what God hath by God raised up. Nay, walk ye in the way of God, the true one. No sooner did the host of true knowledge appear, bearing the standards of holy utterance, than the tribes of the religions were put to flight, save only those who will to drink from the stream of everlasting life in a paradise created by the breath of the All-Glorious. God hath decreed in token of God's mercy unto God's creatures that semen is not unclean. Yield thanks unto God with joy and radiance, and follow not such as are remote from the dawning place of God's nearness. Arise ye under all conditions to render service to the cause, for God will assuredly assist you through the power of God's sovereignty, which overshadoweth the worlds. Cleave ye unto the cord of refinement with such tenacity as to allow no trace of dirt to be seen upon your garments. Such is the injunction of one who is sanctified above all refinement. Whoso falleth short of this standard with benevolent reason shall incur no blame. God verily is the forgiving, the merciful. Wash ye every soiled thing with water that hath undergone no alteration in any one of the three respects. Take heed not to utilize water that hath been altered through exposure to the air or to some other agent. Be the very essence of cleanliness amongst mankind. This truly is what your Lord, the incomparable, the all-wise, desireth for you. God hath likewise, as a body from God's presence, abolished the concept of uncleanness, whereby diverse things and peoples have been held to be impure. God of a certainty is the ever-forgiving, the most generous. Verily all created things were immersed in the sea of purification when on that first day of Ridvan, we shed upon the whole of creation the splendors of our most excellent names and our most exalted attributes. This verily is a token of my loving providence, which hath encompassed all the worlds. Consort ye then with the followers of all religions, and proclaim ye the cause of your Lord, the most compassionate. This is the very crown of deeds, if ye be of them who understand. God hath enjoined upon you to observe the utmost cleanliness to the extent of washing what is soiled with dust, let alone with hardened dirt and similar defilement. Fear God and be of those who are pure. Should the garb of anyone be visibly sullied, his prayers shall not ascend to God, and the celestial concourse will turn away from him. Make utilization of rosewater and of pure perfume. This indeed is that which God hath loved from the beginning, that hath no beginning, in order that ye may be diffused from you, in order that there may be diffused from you what your Lord, the incomparable, the all-wise, desireth. God hath relieved you of the ordinance laid down in the Bayan concerning the destruction of books. We have permitted you to read such sciences as are beneficial to you, not such as end in idle disputation. Better is this for you, if ye but be of them that comprehend. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Allah Wabha. Dao ko dao, fe chong dao, min ka min, fe chong min ja, Rastafari. Deus nos de kies in cele son de vakito no mentum, Vayikra sanam. Baruch ata Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher katzonu bam tzadav v'tzivan l'sok b'rvai Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison, silva mastu sabrigatahe, sabe sata bavontu sukitatam. Vagabiyam. Aqua ba upendo namani, te Kyrie nesilami, chindadam peramen, lebav me, umanjagam, umbundu shabona fekitka. Shishem, Kamasunina, no more arigato, Pilamayela, Wakatawa, Tawaloko Shingun, Gomanagan. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Atajama Yatafanami. Mado, Aho, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Amen. All thanks and praise to the Most High, Elohim. Blessed love and peace.